What's up, Tutorinos, and welcome back to the Game Addicts Podcast, a show where I'm talking about the modern retro video games that I play and collect, as well as dive deep into my favorite games, characters, and lore. Welcome to the show. This is episode 148. I am your podcast host, Player One Brando, and today we got some stuff to talk about. The PlayStation 2 is officially 20 years old, according to the launch in Japan. The FF7 demo was released to the general public this week, as well as the Last of Us HBO series was announced, or the developmental of a series was announced. So we got some news to talk about. The PlayStation part is probably going to be like the main event. I got my stack of games right here. I'm going to do, just like I did with my PlayStation 1s, or my PlayStation 1 games, my top 15 games. Now, these are not like the best-selling games, some of them are, but these are just the top. When I think of the PS2, these are the top ones that I think, the top 15, and they're all from my collection. You can see I got more games back there. I would love to sit there and just go through my entire collection and say, I got this game, I got this game, I got this game. But we don't have that kind of time, and really that's kind of boring. But these are the games that, when I think of the PS2, they stick out to me. And these also the games, some of these games, a lot of these I have stories about, or at least like, how, when, why, and all that kind of stuff. But first, this week, I have been on vacation all week, right? I've been hanging out, kicking up, chilling out, maxing, relaxing, all cool. And I wake up Monday morning, 6 o'clock, because I am an adult, or at least I pretend to be one, and my body is now used to waking up early in the morning due to the fact that I work a day shift job, thankfully. It's way better than working nights. And I'm waking up, oh man, it gets to a point where if I lay in bed too long, my lower back hurts. That's why this gaming chair is awesome. I got this lumbar pillow right here to help support my lower back. Man, I was perfectly fine until I hit 30, guys. I absolutely swear. I hit 30, my body's like, ow, my hip, ow, my back, ow, my foot. My foot has been killing me lately, and I don't know why. I wake up Monday morning, and I see I got an email. That's from Square. Final Fantasy VII Remake demo, now available on PlayStation Store. And that was better than a cup of coffee, my friend. Got myself up, ran out there, turned on the PS4, saw it, hit download, 7 gigs. And within just a few minutes, there I was, controller in hand, mouth agape. I mean, because the simple fact is, I've already watched this demo. This demo leaked out from the dev consoles that like developers have. They have access to it. Some people have dev consoles. They captured it and they put it out. And I watched it because I've already saw the Guard Scorpion boss fight that Square put out, and a lot of people got to talk about their experience with the demo way back during E3 last year. So I already watched it, but to actually get to play it, to be in it, is a different experience. So what did I think? I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Now here's the thing. I'm also on board with the idea that Final Fantasy VII Remake is a completely new version of Final Fantasy VII. This isn't just let's bring the old game and let's pay homage to it. In a way it is, of course, right? Because that's what all remakes strive to do. But this is like, what if we made this game today? While putting enough emphasis on things that you knew, we're going to do this game in a completely new vision going in today. And that's exactly what this demo felt like. It felt like a brand new game coming out from today. This is Final Fantasy VII. This is still Cloud, Barrett, Biggs, Wedge, Jesse, like the whole crew going on the bombing mission. This is still them. And there's still a lot of scenes that were like, boom, this is my old scene. I remember this. But it's not the same words. It's not the same dialogue. But the emphasis is still there. You know, Barrett preaching about the planet. That's still there. You know, Cloud's callousness is still there. Cloud's little flash of, hey, something's wrong when they're getting ready to plant the bomb. That's still there. But they added in some more sprinkles. They added in the whole Shinra thing. With Shinra watching them attack the damn reactor. And then like, man, they're saying that they're Avalanche, but I don't know if this is the same Avalanche that had the attempt on your life, which is proof that they're adding in story elements from the compilation. From the compilation of FF7, which were the extra games that came out like 10 years ago, or maybe a little bit longer than that. Of course, we had the movie Advent Children, we had Dirge of Cerberus, we had Crisis Core on the PSP, and we had Before Crisis, which we never got over here. That was a cell phone game in Japan. In that game, the original Avalanche, you know, the Turks are fighting the original Avalanche. The original Avalanche tried to kill President Shinra. And President Shinra's concerned that this is the same group return. That's awesome. Also, just recently, the guy who was the original director, I can't remember his whole name. Katase is what's how I know him, just by putting a name to the face. He was the original director. Now he's producer or executive producer or whatever on this one. And basically, he added on because Tetsuya Nomura had said that the compilation is no longer canon. And what he clarified is that they're no longer canon because when we went to make this game, we decided not to make this game like we were making the original game, and the other games from the compilation were going to, you know, surround this one. You know, that's not how we're doing it. We're doing it with the idea in mind that we have more time and we have more room to add in all the cool story element ideas that we had from the compilation games. And just like the whole Before Crisis thing about Avalanche being the old group that tried to assassinate the president. That is one of them. And I'm really excited to see how far it goes. Oh man, like I am super psyched. And if you were to sit there and tell me is like, we're going to ignore basically it's kind of what they're doing. They're kind of like everything that we've done before. We're trying our best to ignore it while also know that you guys love this. So we're going to try and incorporate some of our favorite parts of it into this new story, because it's not going to be a one-to-one thing from the old story. It's going to be a completely new vision on that story. And I am on board with that. And this demo is awesome. If you haven't played it, go download it on the PlayStation Store. It is free. You can, leave it a 5-star because I did. A bunch of other people did too. But no, dude, it's awesome. And I can't wait. That I did not think, and I keep saying this. I keep saying it every single time. I don't know. I talk about it here on the show. I know I've talked about it to other people. It's like I keep thinking I can't get any more hyped for this game until something new. It's like, oh hey, until I watched the demo. Like, oh, this leaked out. I gotta watch the whole thing now. Or until I found the soundtrack on YouTube. I listened to the whole damn thing. I'm like, my God, this is amazing. And then I got to play the demo, and right on, man, right on. There's literally not much more that I could say as far as like me being hyped, because like no other words can actually describe what I'm feeling. Like I'm overhyped at this point. I hope not really. I hope that I'm just saying that as just a play on words. But because more than often not, when I get overhyped, I'm let down by it. It doesn't live up to my standards. But I haven't had this level of hype for a video game in a long, long time. Probably since Mass Effect 3. And a lot of you know what happened with Mass Effect 3. I personally love the game despite the ending. The ending's not great, but I still love the game and I love the trilogy. And someone else does too. In fact, that's what I was kind of looking up here because I saw it on the Twitters. On the Twitters, I found out that The Last of Us is getting an HBO series. And what in the world's going on? Why did I say Mass Effect trilogy and then that? Well, it's being developed by Craig Mazin, and he is known as the guy who pretty much headed the project and created the Chernobyl miniseries last year, which was awesome. I thought that miniseries was just completely amazing. And now he's the guy that's heading up the new project to adapt The Last of Us into an HBO series, which I think that's a perfect marriage right there. Perfect marriage, because with HBO you can do a lot. You can do a lot more movie-like quality, and more gore, more realism. That the grittiness that The Last of Us world presents in the game, you can really accurately depict that. Unlike they've done a lot, like The Walking Dead with AMC, they did a lot, but a lot of that is just, man, they started using a lot more computers and it looked hokey. And early on in The Walking Dead, they did a lot more physical effects, and they still do. I'm not gonna put them down. They still have a pretty killer production, despite what I feel about the overall story. But on Twitter, somebody asked him, good old Craig Mazin. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. They asked him, what are your 5 favorite games? First off, are you a gamer? Yes. What are your favorite games? And he had a list. He has more than 5 in no particular order. So these were in no particular order. Some of these were pretty interesting. The Bard's Tale, he said, 1985. Wow. Then that's going back. Dishonored 2, that's a newer one. Star Raiders, 1979, that's old school. Ocarina of Time, Legend of Zelda, good pick. Batman Arkham City, fantastic pick. That game is a game that I don't think they were ever able to top that. Even with Arkham Knight was a pretty fun game, albeit a little broken and too much focus on the Batmobile for me. Arkham Origins is really good, but almost kind of like the same game again. So Portal, the original Portal, Half-Life, okay. RDR, Red Dead Redemption, I would assume. Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3, the entire trilogy. He put that as a whole entry. So that's why that's my little trying to be smooth segue into this segment. BioShock, Super Mario 64, GoldenEye, Fallout 3, New Vegas, and 4. He's really a big fan of these of the newer Fallouts. GTA 4 and 5, Oblivion and Skyrim, and of course, The Last of Us. So, what's going on with this? So apparently, it's being developed by Craig. Oh, he had some more games. I'm sorry. He had some more games that were special shout-outs. Uncharted 4, Thief's End, Witcher 3, Wild Hunt, Red Dead Redemption 2, Assassin's Creed Origins and Odyssey, MLB The Show, and Borderlands 2, and all of the great Telltale stuff. That's pretty cool. Now, while the show is being developed by Craig, also Neil Druckmann is going to be involved as well. And whether or not he's going to be an executive producer and a writer, we don't know. Also, and this is key. So, because I was wondering, when you're adapting The Last of Us for television, and you're looking to make a series, okay, do you just take the? It's not going to be a 1-to-1. You can't do a 1-to-1 because that's not interesting enough for television viewers. When you make a story for a video game, the story can be solid, but when you tell it in a different way when you go to television. So part of me was wondering, is this even going to be a Joel and Ellie adaptation, or is it going to be somebody else in this same world? Kind of like how they did with The Walking Dead eventually when they did Fear the Walking Dead or whatever, or whatever new one they have coming out. It's like, here's this world that we've established with The Walking Dead, and here are these whole new characters, a whole new adventure, a whole new story over here. And now we're following these guys, and it's like you get the similar type of story, but it's in a different realm of that world. But apparently, Craig said, somebody asked Craig, are you going to change Ellie? More specifically, are you going to change aspect of her characterization? Now, Ellie is a lesbian. She's gay. He said no, absolutely not. So that tells me, number one, that's awesome because there's no reason to change that at all whatsoever. That's a part of who Ellie is. And to change that and make her into another type of person, a gender or whatever, to absolutely change that as a part of what has already defined her as a character, like there's no reason to, because literally who she's romantically interested in doesn't really matter, does it? Or like it shouldn't. So why change it? And he said he's not going to. That tells me that, okay, cool, he's not changing it. But number two, it's going to be an adaptation of Joel and Ellie to an extent. So awesome. Super excited for The Last of Us. Not only the new series, but also part 2 coming out. And hopefully, maybe, they were going to have a demo playable, and now they're not going to be there. It'd be really cool. Mr. Druckmann, if you can hear me out there, this is Brando on the Game Addicts podcast saying, hey, FF7 gave me an awesome treat and let me play that demo. If you're not going to be at PAX, which I wasn't going to be at PAX anyway, you don't need to know that. Maybe you guys can give us a little treat for that. That would be awesome. But now, PS2 is 20 years old. The PS2 is 20 years old. Now, we've already have an episode back in the backlog of the PS2 retrospective. I'm going to try not to rehash too much from that. There probably is going to be some. I tried to pick some different games that were not showcased during that. Some of them are going to overlap. There's just no way that I cannot overlap them. I mean, especially this is no brainer, the Grand Theft Auto trilogy on the PS2. Now, I chose to just do all three because all three of them are significant in their own way. And Grand Theft Auto 3 was the game that got me to want to get a PS. I already wanted to get a PS2, but this made it like a mission. Damn it, Christmas is coming. I need a PS2, Mom and Dad. I need it because this was the first PS2 game that I ever played. Grand Theft Auto 3. How did I play it? I was spending the night at my buddy Jason's house. And of course, what did we do? We were kids in a town that was small. We roamed around at night. We went for walks. We hung out at the park. We did what you do, right? Well, one of our other friends was like, "Hey, my brother, his friend is spending the night tonight. He brought his PS2, and they're out in the garage, enjoying some recreational activities. We can probably sneak up there and play it." So we're like, "Absolutely, let's go." So we sneak upstairs, and the game he's got, Grand Theft Auto 3. I had never actually played Grand Theft Auto 1 or 2 or any of the other expansions. I had played Driver 1 and 2 on PS1. Those were some of my favorite games on that system. They were fun. This was like Driver on steroids because they took the old Grand Theft Autos were the over the head God view, looking straight down, raw, and they were difficult to play. Of course, I never had the experience of that, but going back and playing them later, I can say that I would have not liked it because it was hard to play. This, we were automatically all familiar with it because it was like Driver, except you can get out and do whatever you wanted. You could kill anybody, go up, punch people, beat them with bats, shoot them, steal people's cars, get with prostitutes. Now, granted, that night, all we did was replay that first opening segment over and over. Like, Claude is the main character's name, or he doesn't even have a name in 3. But he also doesn't speak either. But the first thing you do is that you get sprung, because he was arrested, he was being transferred. So he's wearing an orange prison jumpsuit, and we were just running around the orange prison jumpsuit just to see how long we could survive. We would, instead of taking 8-ball where he wanted to go, we would go so far, ditch his car, and then we would just run around and do whatever we want. Get the cops on us, try to survive. Little did we know that would become a regular pastime with the Grand Theft Auto games when you're hanging out with all your friends. Get the cops on you, see how long you could survive. When you died, pass the controller. And that all started with Grand Theft Auto 3. I got addicted to this game so much. I remember I wanted this game for Christmas. Both me and my friend Jason wanted this game. However, you know, going into it, my dad's like, "Hey, just so you know, give me a backup game just in case, right? Give me a backup game." And I'm like, "Oh man, I don't know. I guess the new wrestling game, you know." Well, for Christmas, I didn't get GTA 3. Jason did, but they were all sold out when he went to go get it for me. And I got the wrestling game, and that was SmackDown Just Bring It. Now, I'm not actually including that one because while I did play the crap out of it, this one, now I could easily include Here Comes the Pain, but I feel like that would be a duh. I feel like everybody would choose Here Comes the Pain. Personally, the one that I really played even more than Here Comes the Pain, SmackDown vs. Raw 2006. Now, this came out 2005, and the roster's pretty good. It's not as good as the Here Comes the Pain roster, but it's got a good selection of the roster during this time, as well as legends. And there's one mode on here that really sunk my teeth into, and that was GM mode, where you got to basically control Raw or SmackDown, and you got to sign wrestlers, and you got a certain amount of money. You got to pick your roster, and basically did roster warfare, just like they were actually pretending to do in WWE at the time, where they were like, who's getting the better ratings and whatnot. Now, granted, they really didn't talk about that on their television because Raw always had better ratings than SmackDown because of situational stuff. Like, SmackDown was on UPN. They're not going to get better ratings than on USA. That's just not going to happen. If that is inaccurate, please tell me, because I would be shocked at that news. But me and my friend Rob played the crap out of this. Him being Raw, me being SmackDown, and we would just try to one up each other with the ratings and try to do better storylines. Well, I mean storylines as in programs. Batista versus Andre the Giant for the sixth time, cool. But you could run your cards. You can have different match types. They would get fatigued and injured if you worked them too hard. They would even bitch if they lost too much. So you'd have to feed them a win every once in a while. In other words, you'd actually have to go into the damn match, play as Ric Flair, because Ric Flair always lost for me for whatever reason, which he always lost anyway. I'm like, why is he upset in real life, But, Ric Flair's like, I've been losing every week, and his morality goes down, which means if their morality goes down, then their match rating could be affected. It was deep, but I also felt like the 07 and 08, which I also think were on the PS2, they tried to go deeper with it, and I felt like it was too much. It's like getting writers and doing different segments. It's like, this is a little too much. I liked it when you're like, all right, my program is Batista and Andre the Giant, just like I said, and it's just like, write it, have them do matches, have them do segments or whatever, run-ins. But all the storyline stuff that happens is up here. It doesn't play out. It's all up here. And that's more fun to me because I can use my imagination as to why these guys don't like each other or whatever. But this game was freaking awesome. Also, after I started collecting, this came out on the PSP as well, and I was so shocked that the PSP version was nearly just as good as the PS2 version. Now, they also had a character, I think it was Jake the Snake Roberts, that you can only get by connecting your PSP version to this. I think because you could unlock him in the PSP version, and he was exclusive to that version. And if you unlocked him and then you paired it with this, it's like, hey, now you can play with him on this version, which was ridiculous and stupid because if you had a Game Shark like I did, you could just unlock him. So, whatever. However, I will say as an addendum, the PSP version rocked because it has the full GM mode playable on the go, which I loved. Also, they didn't have the damn announcing or whatever like this game had. I think this game had announcing. But like JR and King, he's going to give him a slobber knocker. They instead played the soundtrack music, which the soundtrack for 06 was freaking awesome. You had that got me into Fireball Ministry, which is like kind of a rock band. They got me into there was another band on there that I got into. I can't remember who they were now, but there was also like a weird remix of Megadeth. But so I got not that SmackDown game, but the other one. The other game that I got with my PS2, Gran Turismo 3. Now, this is not my original copy. Unfortunately, I sold it a long time ago. But for my collection's sake, I rebought it, and because I got the combo, the console that came with the bundle. Oh, the bundle is what I was thinking of. That word, blah. The bundle. I got the Gran Turismo 3 bundle, and I got SmackDown. Just Bring It, and I remember telling my dad, "It's like, oh man, I got to go get a memory card." Because for some reason, my parents weren't too hip and in the know about memory cards, because they gave me the system and they gave me this game, but I couldn't save my damn progress. The damn memory card was in another present, and I wanted to go get the memory card, and he's like, no, no, like we're not going. I'm like, I want to go get the memory card. He goes, no, you can't. And finally, he got tired of telling me no, and then just gave me the damn thing. Because I opened up my PS2 at like my family Christmas at my my grandma's, but like our Christmas at home hadn't been done yet. Like Christmas Day hadn't come yet, and on Christmas Day I actually got the memory card before that, but then on Christmas Day I got SmackDown. But Gran Turismo 3, I played a little bit of 1 and 2 on the PS1, and this one was the most Gran Turismo that I ever played. 4, I didn't actually even play 4 until I started collecting, but this one I actually sunk some time into. I will say they're fun, but for my tastes in a racer, they're a little too tedious as far as like getting your license and all that crap. All the different license A, B, C, S, whatever. They're just a little too tedious for me, doing all the stuff to get it. The next one. The Bouncer. Now, this game came out a little bit after the launch. I think it launched in the PS2 launched in the US like October. The Bouncer came out, I want to say spring, like the spring after. And man, the commercials for this game made it look so badass. And it's a fun game. It's a 3D beat 'em up game. Think if this was back on the not PS1, but like on the 16-bit, like Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis. It's like a Final Fight game, but it's in the 3D realm, and you can have 2 players. You can beat up and combos and do all this stuff. The only thing is that you can beat the game in like less than an hour. It is so short. It's the tagline: play the action movie. Scion is a bouncer and in a Dog Street bar called Fate. An organized kidnapping by the Mikado Group Special Forces draws Scion and his friends into an incredible battle beyond the mean streets of the future. Now, I want to say that you can play the 3 characters. They were, Ko, Volt, and Scion. Volt was the big muscular dude. Ko was the wisecrack, and he was voiced by the dude that does Spike Spiegel in Cowboy Bebop. Yeah, the good old Bouncer. Yeah, if you beat the game like 3 times and you got like alternate outfits for the boss, and I remember me and my buddy Jason, we stood up. I was staying the night at his house, and we literally did it within like 2 hours. Yeah, it was fun but short. Oh, okay. What did I play next? As I'm trying to figure this out in my head. Final Fantasy X. Final Fantasy X was the true next gen at the time Final Fantasy. When you're coming from the PS1 era, whether you're coming all the way back from the NES, Super Nintendo, to see this game in its quality, and they brought in the voice acting, it was a next level experience. bar none. Final Fantasy X took the series to another level. And really, the series hasn't looked back. Like, you can almost consider, like, they could have called this something else entirely, and it would have worked. Like, because, I mean, thematically, gameplay-wise, Final Fantasies 1 through 9 almost kind of have a similar feel. They're all different, but they all have a similar feel in battle. This was completely different from all of those. And the series really hasn't looked back after that. This was still turn-based, and they actually, had this first sequel, 10-2, but, 11 wasn't online. 12 was not turn-based at all. Like, it was more active. And then, of course, 13 was... that's a whole other thing. But all that started here. It all started here. And I remember playing it and was just wowed. I hated the sphere grid when I was a kid. It was too deep. I like it now and can actually sit back and like plan out what I want to do. The sphere grid, I like how customizational you can do your characters as long as you plan it right and go along the same ways. However, it does require a certain level of grind depending on what you want to do for the characters. Like they set you on a certain path of where they pretty much kind of want you to go. But if you want to make Tidus a different kind of character, you got to find a way to get him all the way over a certain different part of the grid. That takes time. And unfortunately, like, I like playing games and I like leveling, but too much grind can be bad. Of course, back then I didn't have things like now when I'm grinding or whatever, I just have like throwing a podcast or a YouTube video on my phone, and I just kind of like space out. But it was a different era for sure. I'll go ahead and talk about this, okay, because I've already talked about the Grand Theft Auto trilogy, well, at least 3. But I don't really have a huge, deep personal connection with San Andreas. San Andreas, a lot of people love San Andreas, and I do too. It's really fun, and it takes this era of Grand Theft Auto into that next era of just how deep can you make the game. But Vice City was my jam because, as I said, I played 3. The first game I ever played on the PS2 was GTA 3. And then my buddy got it, so I played it a lot at his house. He let me borrow it. I played it there. Eventually got my own. But I was the first one to have Vice City. Out of all of my friends, I got it. This was one of the first times I ever got a game at launch, was Vice City. I remember I told my dad, I said, I've been a good boy. I've got good grades, kind of. I want GTA Vice City. And he's looking at me like, why do you need it? I'm like, because it's awesome. I need it. Can you please get it? And I remember us hanging out at my buddy's house at Jason's. We hung out a lot, if you haven't picked that up. Hanging out at his house, and I'm like, what are the codes? Because, I mean, GTA 3 had all these codes you could do. It was awesome. There's only one code available on launch day that I could find. And that was the Dodo code. Like, oh, man, you mean I'm going to have to play this, like, legit? Man, that's hard. Anyway, I was waiting for my dad because I went over to his house and my dad was going to pick me up when he got home because he worked late. And of course he swung by. He was supposed to pick me up a copy. And he told me, well, bud, I'm sorry, but they didn't have it. They're sold out. Dude, I was crushed. I was so deflated. The worst part is he was just messing with me. He'd done this to me before. With FF8. Remember, he told me. He goes, I went there and they didn't have it. I'm like, what? Of course, I mean, I wasn't getting that at launch time. It was like a few months later. And then he went and took the dog for the walk. And then he tapped on my bedroom window. He goes, look what I found at the park. My dad was an ass. I love him though, because I get a lot of that when I'm dealing with my kid, even though he's a lot younger. Being a smart ass, it's a certain level of fun. Like it can be mean, and I try not to go to the level of me, because I mean I get home and I get inside and there it is, just sitting there on the table. I'm like, I thought you said they were out. He goes, oh well, what do you know? I guess they weren't. Like, you son of a... He just wanted to watch me squirm is what it was. But Vice City. Vice City is a stark improvement over 3 in every single way. Driving, voice acting, cutscenes, general playability, the soundtrack. Oh my gosh. So this soundtrack, I can almost exclusively say that this soundtrack helped me get into Megadeth and Iron Maiden. I've already heard 1 or 2 songs from each, but playing this game and hearing 2 Minutes to Midnight from Iron Maiden and Peace Sells from Megadeth, I really grew to like those songs. So I really dove into their catalogs. But there's also a ton of great music on a lot of different stations. Of course, like where GTA 3 Chatterbox was the thing, and it's so hilarious. This one had VCPR, which you just had like a couple different discussion shows on there, which were absolutely hilarious with different guests. But Vice City was where it was at, man. San Andreas, unfortunately, San Andreas for me doesn't rank quite as high, even though it is the better overall game. San Andreas, well, it also has a really good soundtrack. The story didn't resonate quite as much with me as Vice City did, as well. Like the game kind of came out right as the same time as a few other like MGS3, like right in the same window, and so I was really headstrong into that. And here is San Andreas, and while I was excited for it, I didn't own it for the longest time, like myself. I don't think I even owned it until I bought the trilogy on the Xbox. Like a whole year later, I ended up getting an Xbox and playing the trilogy on that because the graphics looked better, but also you could do custom soundtracks by ripping your CDs to the hard drive of the Xbox. This copy of the trilogy, these are not my original copies of these. Unfortunately, I sold my original copy of Vice City to a coworker a long time ago, but that's because I had the Xbox version. This version I bought literally just to have them on the PS2 because I feel like if you're going to talk about the PS2, you got to talk about the GTA trilogy. Even if you're not into them, they were special at the time. And I actually found these brand new sealed at Walmart after I started collecting. This was like 2015 or whatever. I'm like, it's brand new PS2. Like, what the heck? Yeah, and it was like $20 for all 3. This game is a wacky, silly-ass game that I really cannot recommend to anybody, but I'm talking about it because it was so weird. I wanted to play this game so bad. This is the one game out of my stack of games that I did not play back then. Some of these games I didn't own, and I rented them, but this was the one that I wanted to play because I saw a commercial and I saw a magazine thing. I'm like, this seems so stupid, I gotta play it. Mr. Mosquito. What do you do in this? Well, you are a mosquito, and you have different levels, and you have to suck blood and not get caught and not get killed with the spray or getting slapped. It is silly and wacky as it sounds, like quite literally. This actually took a long time for me to track down. Granted, I only get to go game hunting. Now I've completely stopped hunting in general. But when I was really active and hunting, I could only venture so far south or so far north. Up north has a lot bigger selection. But I mean, I found this in a small ass little store just south of here, just south of my house, and it's a game store that I don't even think is open anymore, which sucks because that dude, I got this, and I got my copy of my boxed Chrono Trigger from him. So, support local if you can, man. Go support local. Now this game, unfortunately, I didn't get a manual, but there is another reason why I wanted to talk about this, because this is the one game that I knew I had in my collection that is a blueback. Now, if you didn't know, standard PS2 games were DVD-ROMs, which means they are actually, what they have on the back is that they are just clear. They are clear, and I remember, you're not gonna be able to see this on camera, but somewhere in there they actually embed the PlayStation logo into the layering on the disc, and it's crazy. But there were some games that I would rent that had the blue back, and I never understood why. I'm like, why is this, you know? Well, that is because the blue backs are CD-ROMs, not DVD-ROMs. DVD-ROMs have a lot more room and space on the disc. And the blue backs, well, the CD-ROMs on the old PS1, they were black, and they decided to make these a really shiny blue. In fact, I've owned 3 PS2s over the years, and my very first one, as I said, was the Gran Turismo 3 bundle, and it broke. The laser wore out because it wouldn't read DVDs anymore. It would still read CDs, and like the one CD-ROM game I had at the time worked, and I could never really figure it out. But I mean, because I was a kid, it's a CD-ROM. The DVD laser went out. Of course, that was a big issue with the early models of the PS2. So I ended up buying a new PS2, and I had that one for years until I think it was like 2006. So like the PS3 had come out, and I wanted it. I wanted it so bad I could taste it, right? The PS3, it could play PS2 games, early PS3 could, and it could play PS1 games and PS3 games. I'm like, that's the ultimate console. I need it. Well, it was also $600, so I couldn't get it. But what I could get was a new PS2 Slim, which I felt like I needed because the fat one, the second one that I had, was starting to sound really loud, like with the fan. And I even like dusted it and cleaned it, and it was just like, man, this thing might be on its last legs. I ended up giving that one to my wife. I was dating her at the time, and I just gave it to her for her to have at her place for her. She wanted to watch. I mean, she already had a DVD player, but like if she wanted to play any old PS1 games, or because she had the Crash Bandicoots and whatnot. Now the next game, I've already mentioned it, Metal Gear Solid 3. Now this is the subsistence version because I never actually owned Snake Eater proper. I was waiting purposely. I rented Snake Eater or borrowed it from Rob. I know I did. I think I did both. I think I rented it first and then played it and beat it and took it back. And then the next time I wanted to play it, I actually borrowed his copy because he had bought both that and San Andreas, and he was playing both. So at some point I decided, but I waited because after playing MGS2, and then Substance came out for MGS2 for the PS2 as well. I was like, they're going to announce a Substance probably. And they did. It's called Subsistence. This is the better version of the game to play. It has a 3D camera where you can actually see behind the character, and you can see around and see people out in the distance. Whereas the original Snake Eater had the original camera, the overhead, and they did that to keep it thematically. Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3 make them feel the same. But the kind of game this is, we're out in the jungle. You really need to see out in front of you to try and stay hidden from all like the guards. Because if you're running around and you're like got the camera above you and you don't have the old school Soliton radar system, you're not gonna be able to see people. This came with 2 discs, and this was actually, I want to say this was the first online. One of the discs has the online mode. This was the first MGO, and they also had a theater mode where you could like watch the cutscenes, and I think you could change some of the character models. At least you could in NGS2's Substance. You could do. They had cool, like what if, blooper stuff. I remember to this like there's a scene in MGS3 where Snake loses his eye and he loses his depth perception, right? And he tries to reach for a butterfly and he can't get it. Well, later on he gets the C3 explosive stuff and he molds it into a butterfly, and he's like playing catch with it, and he throws it up in the air and he catches it, right? And he's like, got you this time. And he slaps it onto the thing that he's going to blow up later with the detonator. But as soon as he slaps it down, the little detonator thing clicks, and he's like, and he blows up, and then he dies. And I thought that was just absolutely hilarious. They also had a thing where the opening video where he's coming down like on the parachute, and he there's like a ridge, and he lets go, and he like, you know, he unhooks the parachute and he drops and he lands right before he hits the ridge. So he's right on the edge, and he stands up, and the game's like, oh yeah, he's a badass. Well, for this video, he unhooks and then he just flies over the edge and it's game over. Like, well, that was a short game. No, Subsistence is awesome. Snake Eater is in my top 5 of all time. Snake Eater is one of the very few games that I feel have ever elicited that much emotional reaction from me playing it, having mind be blown by how well the story was told. Now, Kojima, he's a good storyteller, and he's also a really whacked out storyteller. This one has a little bit of both, but it's mostly good. And also, this is one of the few games in the series that you could jump into completely blind of the story, not know what's going on, and completely enjoy it, because this game's connectivity with the other games, it's there, but it's in such a minute level, because this on a timeline is set before all of them. So if you play this one first, going back to the other ones might kind of suck, because this game is a little bit of a better game and has a better gameplay. Storyline wise, it might make more sense to you. I had to talk about this one. Twisted Metal Black. So much fun. Played this a lot with some of my friends. This is the greatest hits version, which came with the online disc. My original copy of this, when I had it, was just a black label, and it was just a regular game. It had no online. This game was fun because I grew up playing Twisted Metal 2, and then we played 3 and 4, and I just didn't feel like those games were as good as Twisted Metal 2. Of course, they were made by, I want to say they were made by a different dev studio, where you had 1 and 2 are made by a certain dev studio, and 3 and 4 were made by somebody else. Black kind of took it back down, made it grittier, and made it a lot more fun. Twisted Metal Black also, I think there was a Twisted Metal Head On. Was that on the PSP and eventually PS2? That had some levels that were cut from here, and also that one almost kind of has some sort of connectivity to it, if I do remember correctly. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about this series when I talked about the PS2. Jak and Daxter. Of course, this is made by Naughty Dog. A previous generation did Crash Bandicoot, and then PlayStation sold the freaking... Or, I don't know if PlayStation sold the rights or if Naughty Dog sold the rights to Crash. Either way, I felt like on one hand, they probably did to help fund themselves going forward, and they were kind of done with that property. But Crash was like, dude, he was the PlayStation mascot, man. You had Mario and Sonic and Crash. Crash was... So to know that Crash is owned by Activision now is just... But they went on to do Jak and Daxter, which was like the next level of platforming games. Now they would follow suit with Jak 2. Jak 3 would kind of like make it more open, and then of course they would end it with Jak X Combat Racing, which was like they had the Crash Bandicoot kart racer. That was like a mix between a kart racer and like Twisted Metal, but you were racing. But no, these games are awesome. Fun games for Jak and Daxter. Kingdom Hearts 2. Why'd I pick 2? Because it's the better game, in my opinion. Kingdom Hearts 1, it was really cool. Final Fantasy characters, walking around with Disney characters, doing this. Let's just be honest. Does anybody actually know what's going on in the story for these games? Because I've tried. I've tried to understand it. I've played every single one of them to an extent. Now, 1 and 2 are the only ones that I've actually sat down and beat. However, now I know you guys are saying, well, Brando, you didn't beat the other games. That's why you don't understand what's going on. No, I've watched videos and watched people explain it, and I still don't really understand it. I think Tetsuya Nomura, who's the lead guy behind Kingdom Hearts, he's throwing stuff against the wall. And there's like different post-it notes. He goes, all right, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. As the story goes along, it gets more convoluted. I'll be honest with you, I'm just in it for the fun because the combat's pretty fun. I like Disney. I like Final Fantasy. I thought Kingdom Hearts 3 was lacking in the Final Fantasy front. I saw the new thing that they just put out that seemingly had some more Final Fantasy in it. I was extremely disappointed with that because as much as I like the Disney stuff, I wanted that interconnectivity with the Final Fantasy characters, and that's what I think it was cool. It was like a merging, But Kingdom Hearts 2 was where it was at. I liked how the first 2 games you had that super optional boss with Sephiroth. I could never beat him in Kingdom Hearts 1, but I beat his ass in Kingdom Hearts 2. 2 is the one that I actually replayed and like played a lot more. So this next one, right now looking back, like if you look back on it as a whole, as I hit my mic, If you look back on it as a whole, it doesn't really, as a series, it's definitely played out. But I cannot understate how awesome and how innovative Guitar Hero was. It was like taking that Dance Dance Revolution style of game, that rhythm game, and making it like you were playing an instrument. Now, from what I understand, there was a game like this before this, but this streamlined it. This made it accessible. With their guitar controller, made it feel like you were actually playing guitar. And they had a really good set list. Now, the majority of these songs were covers. It wouldn't be until, I think, Guitar Hero 2 that they would actually get master tracks for a lot of the stuff. But, man, this game was fun to play. I remember playing it in Best Buy when it first came out. Like, what is this? They had their whole demo unit set up. I'm like, this is crazy. I remember trying my best to like master and beat the game on hard and all that kind of crap. Of course, I think they had an expert level too. It wasn't quite that good, but as much as I almost said Kingdom Hearts 2, as much as Guitar Hero 2 took it to the next level of popularity, and then it blew up, right? Boom, and everybody was playing it. The first one, I remember when it came out, and I remember playing the crap out of it and thinking how great this was. And then, like, because of how good this was, is what made the hype for Guitar Hero 2. And I want to say that Guitar Hero 2 was released within, like, a year? Like the next, I think I picked it up around holiday time or something, around 2006 or something. Because I remember actually buying, I never actually bought Guitar Hero 1. Rob did, and we played it a lot. And he'd bring it over, and we'd take turns. But then I bought the box for, or like the bundle set for Guitar Hero 2. So then we had two controllers, and we would play a lot. We would do the bundle or team thing or battle thing, and we would actually play two players a lot. So, no, as much as that has been watched, like basically what happened with the Tony Hawk series. There's so many of them, and they got played out, and they got tired. The whole series, the whole genre got tired because you got Guitar Hero 1, 2, and 3, and then you had Rock Band, which was, I think, also was either Harmonix or Red Octane. I can't remember. Like, basically, the two companies that were making it, they split. And the one kept making Guitar Hero, and one set it up with Rock Band. And, of course, Rock Band, we're like, hey, we're going to do the same thing with Guitar Hero, but now we're going to have the drums. We're going to have guitar and bass and a vocal. So it's like, you guys in a whole room can be playing together like a rock band. So it was like, let's try to innovate that again. And after a while, it just got tired. I remember they came out with a new Guitar Hero 7 years ago, and they tried to revitalize it, and it just didn't really take, and it's been kind of dead ever since. But this next game is a game that I rented because I saw the magazines talking about it. And for the size and scope alone on the PS2, you should play this game. And that's Shadow of Colossus. Now, they actually just remade this not that long ago for the PS4. So you can play that version if you want to. But the reason why I'm talking about it here is because of how well of a job they did graphically. This game is beautiful on the PS2. It's absolutely insane what they were able to accomplish. Now it's also not your standard big action game, and where you're because I thought going into it was going to be more like Zelda, and it's not. It's not. It's its own thing, but the world feels so big, and everything just looks so beautiful. Really impressive, really impressive for what they were pushing the console to its limits. And the next one, God of War. Good old God of War. I want to say this was developed and made by the dude who created Twisted Metal. That for some reason that's in my head, and it could be wrong, but this took the whole, this became a genre in itself, because I want to say there was games that just copied this formula, the big hack and slash and combo, fighting hordes of enemies, and getting life and getting spirit to do cool moves. And then, of course, you had your big boss battles, which you would fight and you'd weaken them. And then all of a sudden, you'd have to kill them with quick time events. hit the circle button, now hit the X button, now hit the square button, now hit the circle button again, and then you do that 3 times, and then the dude's dead. So, God of War, because God of War 2 came out in the PS2, but I chose this one simply because of how groundbreaking this was. Just like the same thing with the Guitar Hero. This is groundbreaking for the time. For this to come out and for it to be as good as it was, and then to know where they would go with it, and then to see what they would reimagine that style with the reboot / continuation with the PS4 game. God of War was a fantastic game. I've got 2 more. And this game is an awesome RPG. It's definitely beloved among a lot of RPG fans, but also it gets kind of overshadowed with all the great RPGs that were on the PS2, and that's Dragon Quest VIII. Dragon Quest VIII. I picked this up at launch, and I bought the guide for it, and we dove right into it. It was a really fun game, But there is another little added incentive to buy this at launch. That's because you got the demo of Final Fantasy 12. Which, I'm a huge Final Fantasy nut. I'm like, oh man, I gotta play the demo of Final Fantasy 12. Yeah, that demo was the reason why I didn't buy a copy. Because as good as Dragon Quest VIII is, I did not like what they did with the Final Fantasy series with 12. Now that I'm grown up, more adapted into my ways, I accept it. It's fine. It's even fun. At this time, I wasn't ready for it. I was that old man yelling at Cloud Final Fantasy. Not the Cloud, but a Cloud. Yeah. I wasn't ready for that, man. And I remember just being so disappointed, being like, what is this? I was so close-minded. Now, I had played Knights of the Old Republic by this time. I love Knights of the Old Republic. It's one of my favorite games. And I thought this was like Knights of the Old Republic. So why didn't I like it? I don't know. Honestly, I honestly think it was fan elitism. Final Fantasy is supposed to be turn-based. It's supposed to be random battle turn-based. That's what it's supposed to be. It's never supposed to change. I was too hard-headed against that change. So that's why Final Fantasy 12 is not here, because I really didn't play it on the PS2. I refused, but I did play a crap ton of Dragon Quest VIII, and it is a fantastic addition to your RPG collection. There's also another, Dark Cloud, Rogue Galaxy, stuff like that. Really good games to pick up. This last one is not a great game, and that's so weird that I would save this one for last, because I remember, because I don't have the one of the other games I have in my collection that I really liked at that time towards the end of my PS2 era was Bully. And I actually don't own that on the PS2 anymore. I have it on the 360 because it added content. Bully was made by Rockstar. It was like a scaled down GTA where you're playing as a kid, so you don't kill anybody, but you can potato launcher the crap out of some kids. Fun game. But Final Fantasy VII, Dirge of Cerberus. I mentioned it earlier when we were talking about the FF7 stuff. This game seemed like, and I thought it was going to play more like Devil May Cry, and I think it would have been better if it did. Instead, they tried to hybrid it into like a RPG, and they didn't let it be as arcadey as it could have been, because the cutscenes, he's flying around and doing all this stuff that when you go to play the game, then all of a sudden you can't do, and you're just running around. The gameplay's pretty boring. It's not really engaging. And that's to its detriment. The story's pretty good because it's a continuation. It's set after Advent Children, and it goes more into the Hojo character. Hojo uploaded his consciousness to a computer. He's still alive, that son of a bitch. And then there's appearances from like all the old cast members, especially Yuffie and Kate Sith are here. And then towards the end, the others kind of come up and help as well. Overall, it's a pretty decent story that is not a good game, and I was really let down by that. I suffered through it and beat it and played it, and it's one of those, it's It's one of those things that if you can sit there and just watch the game on YouTube like you can now, that's the way to enjoy this game. Don't put yourself through that. So really weird that I ended the whole thing on like a bad game after gushing about so many of the other ones. But happy birthday. Happy 20th birthday to the PS2. You know, like looking back, you know, on my gaming journey being like, dude, man, right? I played the NES. I played the ColecoVision when I was a kid. But the first systems I ever owned were like the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis, and I love those systems. And but it wasn't until the PS1 that I really fell in love with the hobby of gaming and good storytelling. And then I was so adamant, like, I have to get the PS2 because I'm such a Sony pony. I have got to get the PS2, and I did. And the PS2 became my next it. You know, I shunned the Xbox for so long because, like, yeah, get that away from me. You know, I did get a GameCube eventually, and I did actually get an Xbox, and I do enjoy my Xbox, and like all my Xboxes, I do enjoy them. But I've always been a Sony fan, and I've always been a PlayStation fan first. They had me at 1, and 2, they cemented it. So happy birthday to the PS2, and thank each and every one of you guys for listening to this episode and hearing me ramble on about my favorite PS2 games. What are some of your favorite PS2 games? Go ahead and hit us up on our social medias, especially on Twitter at Game Addicts Play. I'm pretty active on there. I try to be. We're also on Facebook and Instagram at Game Addicts Play. Of course, you can also check out the podcast on services around the globe. We're back on Apple. So we had a little issue with the Apple podcast, but we're back up on there. Of course, we're also on Spotify and on Podbean and all the other places as well. And we're also on YouTube for your one-stop shop for everything that we do when I decide to do some gameplay, which I will be doing some gameplay of the new Final Fantasy VII Remake. I'm going to try and do my entire gameplay run in a weekend, and we're going to see how that pans out. I do need to finish up some of my other gameplay stuff I have planned for that, so please bear with me. It's kind of difficult to do so when this space doubles as the baby's nap room to keep him away from my other loud kid who doesn't know how to use his inside voice. That way the baby can take a nap. So I don't get to game back here as much as I would like. Hopefully that'll change soon, but we will see. I'm still dedicated to getting all that gaming stuff to you guys. So that being said, once again, thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys next time here on the Game Addicts Podcast. Until then, game on.